Hello, friends and kindred souls. Welcome back to Sage Time. Welcome back. I'm Lillian. We have a great reading today. Jupiter's here. Her little perm motor is revved up and ready. Now when she was preparing for the reading, she would duck under the computer here and like squeak her little head through and rev up her motor. So she's in on this today. She's got things to say. Okay, your reading today is it's so cool. It's so awesome. And I say that because the cards themselves have a bit of a nefarious motif. But what makes it so awesome is okay, so you all know I don't read from that like those old fear-based programs and who done it and third party and da 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 da. I read from a place, and I'm connecting with you in this place as well, that recognizes that with every witnessed observation, there are stories upon stories within stories behind that, from the lower level and history to the global and collective and unseen forces influences to the higher level of self and oversouls and source itself. So there's always all these different points of view. And with you, we together are able to talk about and reiterate and express higher levels as well as more broader scope of perspectives. So encompassing more details, more comprehensively detailed. And so when we get these little like, oh, someone's doing something up to no good, there isn't a fear reaction anymore. We've worked that fear reaction consciously, like, oh, there's that I need to protect and fight back, or hide in a corner, or figure it out and intellectualize it, or sublimate and supplement, supplement or something. All those things. We don't have to do that anymore, at least not so much. Sometimes it's possible that we'll slip back into those things. Um, if there's another maybe significant uptick in advancement. And that is really also what's being spoken about here as well, as you are in an up leveling of advancement in your skills, but not in the way it used to be, not in the way of we're going to hold you, spirit saying, your higher self saying, we're going to hold you down so hard with such pressurization that you're going to have to lift these weights of counter resonance and up leveling these collective influences, with no real sense of relief and release and accomplishment. That's not so much the picture right now. And so I'm getting pulled into the cards. Sorry. Um, I think they want me to stop. So I'm going to kind of skip ahead to the end of the reading a little bit to tell you the why that this is coming up, and then we'll go back to the what. Okay. So the why is detour, divine detour. And we're changing this narrative of, coyote medicine, the divine detour, the trickster energy, into the Loki god kind of naughty energy. We're turning this into an archetype, or not even turning it into, it's more like the veils are dissolving and dropping so that we see the bigger picture. It's not to be cruel or mean, right? It's or sneaky or detrimental. It's to be like, hey, I got you, and I'm going to add a little extra challenge to this, but don't worry, you've got it. And now you're aware of more of the reasons why and what's going on from it, because you're perceptive in that way. You're connected with your subconscious through your consciousness as well as your super consciousness. And now those two, the sub and the super consciousness, are talking and they're communicating and they're working things out. And we can kind of sit back and go, all right, and then the even grander influences coming in. All right, yeah, I'm just going to kick back and you show me where to go, and I'm going to have some joy and some fun. And I'm going to keep returning to peace if I feel myself getting caught up in the naughties and the nasties. And it's clarifying our thoughts. And we see this in a couple ways as we come out with the card thoughts and cleanse. And this one, cultivating your ideas, as well as clearing space for positive energy. And this is really talking about the idea that over time doing this hard knocks work in a more, in that more hermited, introspective, less socialization kind of way, I keep kind of like, okay, because I need to slow down. I'm going to take a little sip. We're going to come back. Let's come back. During that introspective hermiting time, and because we were connected with collective thought patterns and ancestral programs and conditionings and so forth, influences in all these different ways, both attached to individuals and collective beings, as well as geographic regions and just out there floating in the ether. We also were connecting with these individuals and regions and collectives, their dreams and hopes and truthfully their divine path. And so you would have found that you would have had all these different inspirations and downloads of ideas and creative expressions and kind of hitting all the different fields, whether it's how to create new infrastructures of businesses and corporations that are collectively inclusive and sustainable and or if it was, creating a new form of art and creative outlet, or working with animals, or shifting the way we eat and consume into a way that was, healthful, and the healthcare system and all these different things. And you've had these beginning, you've all had these big multifaceted incoming solutions and visions, and even in detail the how to's. But in a lot of ways they've been for other individuals, and yet also it connected you by thread, like the dynamics and the interconnections of a geometrical shape or a spider web, a multi-dimensional spider web instead of a two-dimensional. It's interconnected you to these other individuals, and it was in its own course a manner of seed planting, leaving a bit of a Easter egg for people to find when the time arrives for those activations to, sorry about the little shaking there, for those activations to occur and progress through the other individuals as well as the regions. And I'm being told that you've seen some of these unfold in smaller ways. Maybe you'd have this great idea or vision for the parks in your local area, and then you saw it happen, months later, and you're like, oh, wow, I knew about that. Or years later, even. But you weren't in a position to do it. And so I think that you might have had some struggles with feeling like that was your fault, or feeling a sense of defeatism with that. And yet, Spirit is really wanting to reiterate to you that, sorry, Jupiter Kitty is just in the reading today. She's hostessing. Spirit really wants to reiterate and emphasize to you that you were a part of it, you are a part of it, and those extensions, if you were at the center of a web or a multifaceted geometric shape and multidimensional shapes within shapes, you are part of that interconnection, dialogue, conversation, and what's coming to fruition that's unfolding now, little by little. And our connection with the imaginal realm and the greater spiritual realm, the architects of, well, how do I even say this? Just a more vast illustration, design, and archives of what's going to happen and how and everything. that can be so mind-blowing that it renders us physically incapable of actually implementing it. And we're not supposed to be. This is the point of it all, is we are a collective and moving into a collective paradigm of interdependence, co-creation, inter-influence of consciousness, both positively and if there's detriment going on, it not just happening to the person down the street, it's affecting us all. And so this that was a very long way to get back to this cleansing, this detour that's coming in for you presently, that you're working with right now, is coming in to serve as a clearing of thoughts and uncertainty within the thoughts of what belongs to you and what doesn't. It's bringing in that clarity and offering the design that is specifically for you as the one that's the most illuminated and pronounced within you and within your vision, as well as along your path. It's like the idea of geese migrating and being able to see the grid of where they are supposed to go in their inner vision. It's entirely like that. Jupiter is very up in this reading. So it's also clearing out any old distortions that you've been working with from, I think, a lot of the influences of other people's, you know, distorted programs and thought forms and so forth. Those have, in most ways, have dissolved, and you kind of insta alchemize them ish. But also, there was a residual of how it affected you in this human form, as well as I'm hearing your spiritual body as well. That multi-dimensional geometric shape that you are within and around your physical body and beyond. And so it's clearing that out. It's helping you consciously tune into, whether it's visually, sensorially, somatically, auditorily, olfactory, extrasensory, and all the above. It's helping you tune into the senses and shapes and feels of all of that with clarity, so that you can more readily and easily, when you feel others' distortions and malinfluences, not because of them, but because of, all the things that they're dealing with and haven't awakened to yet. As it's influencing you, you're instantly like, oh yeah, I know what to do. I go within, I expand, I open, I become a more clear channel. I root, I anchor, I align, I harmonize, and I breathe. And it's just, it's coming quickly now. And this talks about that intellectual aspect of it, as well as, well, we'll wait. Well, no, we're bringing it in, as well as the, let's see, the feminine alchemy of it. And you can see in this card that opening at the top, as well as opening all around, this feminine design of oneself, allowing things to come in, but having this intellectual, cognizant awareness of what's going on. And having the two, and this is the masculine, this is the yang of it, the light, the photon uh frequencies that are coming in. And then this is the yin, the receiving and alchemizing and co-creating with the masculine. And this, I love that these two cards came out, because it's a beautiful union and expression of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And this divine masculine came out underneath okay, this is the detour. We're clearing and cleansing the thoughts, and what is for you to cultivate into your next steps and expressions. So you're getting more of a sense of control. But really what it is it's just a matter of clarity and availability to perceive and integrate that masculine as well as receive and assimilate and co-create that feminine. So then here on the feminine side, excuse me, Jupiter, we've got a neat little layout here. So the first two cards, oops, that came out is very determinately the gift card in reverse and sneaky person. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so the sneaky person being a person with questionable moral compass. And yeah, but okay, we get it because we've been around the block and either us ourselves in our own way and or interactions and empathic experiences, incepted experiences of other people's, and then the whys and the hows, they are that way. We've been around the block and we've been at that rodeo plenty of times. But this is a gift. It's just not the kind of gift that is like traditionally thought of as, yeah, I'm getting a new car kind of thing. It's almost more like, I'm not saying that this is it, but maybe it is. It's almost like, yeah, I'm getting a challenge and it feels icky and it's going to have all these things and there's going to be a person and or people that I'm going to encounter and it's going to really challenge aspects of me that don't exactly reflect and mirror that, but there's something within me that both I need to learn as a distinction of what I'm not and how to understand and be compassionate with it, as well as I need to see where in who and how I am I similar to that in my own way? Do I co-create this pattern either by being the oppositional piece of the puzzle that matches and magnetize this sneaky, what did it say? Sneaky person with questionable moral compass. So what about me is the receptive shape that magnetizes and allows that to enter my space? Okay, right? You get it. And so this is the gift, is both that introspection as well as the, okay, I've been around the block. This isn't my first rodeo. I know how these things go. And while it might be a new paradigm of challenge, I know that I get to keep making it fun and enjoyable, even if it sucks. Yeah. What's that line again in Harry Potter? When I think Ron Weasley and they're doing the tea leaves, and he goes, well, it looks like it's going to be something horrible, but you're going to be happy about it, or something like that. I'm totally butchering it. I'll remember it after this video. So this is that test. Darn, darn. But we have cooler tests now. We have tests that are, it's that divine test. Oops, this side. That scarab within the ancient, referencing Egyptian era, an era that is already ancient and we know has these hidden and unknown, apparent and non apparent, just profound spiritual, esoteric, and theological, philosophical wisdoms like bomb. And we can sense that in between the lines, in between the pictographs. And we can sense that when we touch in intuitively and we timescape with our consciousness. We can perceive that in different ways. And we've seen other people do that as well. So when it says test, we're not like, ah, right? We're like, okay, ooh, I got my bootstraps up. And this talks about, so the eccentric person, a person with a different worldview, this is both you and it came out counter encounter opposition with the sneaky person. So it was like this. You'll see it in the thumbnail. And so you've got this archetype of the sneaky person, who is simply and strictly speaking someone who has limitations and unawakened parts of themselves that you understand, you get it in one way or another. It's like being a parent to a child. When they do something super not cool and smart and everything, you're like, I get it. I didn't do the same thing, but I was doing stuff, in my own way. And maybe I was a good kid, but I was still testing boundaries within the parameters of what would have been safe and allowed, right? Especially if you're providing, as a parent and or a person simply in the world, you're providing wisdom, clarity, and safety in the field that you reside in, whether it's with a child or another person that you didn't get. And you're able to provide that because you didn't get it and you faced and worked with very maturely the conditions of adversity that you were handed, not by luck and not by being a bad person, but because the spiritual essence and matrix of everything knew, as your soul did, that you were capable of handling it, and you did, even beyond all those points that you felt like you weren't capable of handling it. You did. And so this person is the sneaky person, but they're also saying that some of the identifications is that eccentric persona. There's somebody who has a different worldview, and they may or may not. I'm hearing that oftentimes you're going to be seeing that in this present dynamic or dynamics, and they'll come to present themselves. I'm hearing sometimes or initially as being different in the world, maybe being somebody who, yes, is at a disadvantage. And so there'll be that sense from you of empathic, like, oh man, I get it. I get it. And that's where the bait and switch comes in. And so this is like a warning, but not like warning, warning. It's a heads up. This is coming. Be aware, stay present, stay grounded. Keep your heart open. Keep that presence in that heart space to feel the distinction when it contracts, so that you can reach more of your consciousness out of your mind in that mentally in space of trying to figure it out and fix it and make it right and make it work for you because you're covered. So coming out of that mental in space back into that heart and simply opening it, opening it, opening it, expanding it. Mantras, if that helps, feeling your body ground, feeling your different tactile expressions, and keeping that awareness in the heart as you are present with that other individual's racket, their story, their outdated paradigm that they're playing through. And instead of mirroring back to them the counter puzzle piece of enabling and allowing, whether you want it to or not, right? They were able to run that racket because there were people like yourself, perhaps in the past, who were allowing and, for good intentions, I'm going to love and accept and allow, or any other various dynamics. It could be something like being asked to be brought into, having to deal with somebody in an authoritarian position, a job, a boss, or a parent, or a teacher, or just a person, a landlord, or something like that, whom is kind of able to get away with their BS because you're, in some sense or another, more vulnerable than they are and don't have the resources to counter it, whether it's external resources, internal resources, or simply by design of who you are, by race, color, creed, orientation, sexual orientation, just being an empath and an angelic light worker and all those different things, any combination of all those and all the others, or life circumstances having shaped and molded you into somebody who is simply more vulnerable and susceptible to authoritative people taking advantage of you and being able to hone in and pin those little tender spots and use that as a way to dominate and get away with things that are unethical and just, all that not right. So You're not that person anymore. And yeah, there's some old memories still kind of lingering within the cellular DNA. I'm hearing not even so much that, with just memories of that old reverberation within the cells and the conglomerates of cells throughout your body. There's still that memory. We remember our past in this life and in other past lives. Yet you've done this enough times, you've developed your types of strengths so much that now you're able to go, skirt, no, I know this game. I can feel it happening in my body and trying to do its business, but I'm stronger now. And I've done the work to get stronger now. I know what my tools are, and I know if I don't get it and I kind of turn into a puddle or slip and slide all over the place in the moment, that's okay because that's part of my process. I'll go and retreat for the time I need to retreat at the end of the day or beyond that, and alchemize and strengthen my ability, my skills and strength and variations of alchemization. I'm going to be learning from this, so that's okay. So this is part of the test. It's not a test to get it right, although you'll get it more right than you have before, but it's a circumstantial test and exercise to experience the grace of not getting it all right and going with the flow of that and maintaining that inner self-love, that powerful inner self-love, and that reoccurring devotion to joy and peace, and keep doing that while it's all happening, not worrying about the details of how it's happening in the moment, and knowing because you can trust in all of that divine design protection. This came out in the middle of it. You can trust that when it all shakes out, you're going to come out more shiny and sparkly, more in alignment and design, divine design and grace and strength and oomph than ever before. And so sweet. And that's the protection. It's not, you don't need a big angelic or spirit team or personally, you know, deflecting and protection sort of boundaries and barriers. Your protection is the strength and capacity and ability of your alchemization. And then your team and spirit compensates and helps you out where you need, and not to keep you from experiencing the struggle. That's so important, to experience the struggle, but allowing you to experience the perfect amount of struggle in all the perfect different ways to give you what you need to enhance your internal systems, from physical, physiological, neurological, cellular, somatic, emotional, to all the energetic and lines and designs and meridians and everything. So, ooh, daddy. And that's you. Again, that feminine alchemizer. I mean, look at that. And what's the little sub? Oh, yeah, the priestess of activations. Because you're not only doing all this business on the inside, you're now reverberating it externally. And you're doing so in a way that the product often is more masculine. It's information that is attaching itself to the resonance that you are emitting. And you guys, that's about as cool as it gets, right? And you're doing this in such more anchored, lower dimensional cultures and groups and environments of the mundane reality. So it's like you're dropping dimensionally and then coming back and walking it back into where you've been in those higher dimensional realms and levels. And yeah, wow, that was just a whole bucket full of awesome. So I'm gonna see if, yes, it did come out. Oh, we love that. One of the Jody Bergsma spirit animals wanted to just come out and wrap things up briefly. And what came out just now is Hummingbird Miracles. And this is you guys. And remember, hummingbirds are multidimensional beings. They can fly when ergonomically, mechanically, it's really an impossible thing. And yet they can fly and carry their bodies and pivot and move and maneuver their bodies in a way that is transcendent to any other flying beings. And they figured it out, right? How did they figure it out? Yeah, we could say it's strictly speaking like Darwin's evolution. But we can also say that they had a lot of help. They were able to have these downloads, and they did, and that advanced and activated their internal cellular and genetic makeup, which also was in collaboration to the struggle and the suffering that they were experiencing by their own shape and who they were, and these elongated beaks that were working with flowers that weren't really meant for hummingbird style beaks and tongues. And yet the flowers in the environment also, over the course of time and history, started to adapt their shape and their nectar excretions to work specifically with the advantage of the hummingbird, impact and influence. And this is just a wonderful thing that, we can see over time historically on how flowers evolved and hummingbirds evolved. And it says, you are, this is you. I'm bringing it back to you. You are the joy bringer, right? You're keeping that in your heart. You bless the world with positivity and love. Energy energy soars on your shining wings, seen or unseen. You got them, you feel them. So you can spread that miracle of happiness, and you just keep cultivating that. And as you're cultivating it, where'd the card go? I think Jupiter took it somewhere. As you're cultivating that joy and that presence within your heart, that peace and self-love within your heart space, and it's moving and influencing throughout your whole body in the alchemization process, as well as your own, because we don't just give and give. We know the law of causality. It's a primary principle of the universe. And so what we do and how we do it is what reverberates back and then comes back to us in that toroidal field that is within and around everything and the totality of it all. Boom. Now that's a channeling. All right, my friends, I love you so much. You are kick-ass. And I thank you for being a part of this. Have a beautiful, wonderful day. Thank you, everybody, for commenting when you feel comfortable to, for touching that like button just to let me know you're here and you're a part of this, in addition to the conversations that we have in the astral realm. I am so very grateful for you. I love you. Take care.